Now, this weekend, the Premier League returns, and it's a big day for all football fans. But for fans of one English club in particular, Leeds United, it's a very special day indeed. It's a long time since Leeds were in the Premier League, and there are many football followers of a certain age. Matt Cooper comes to mind, and Billy Hutchinson, the loyalist leader in Belfast, is a season ticket holder, and lots of people of that sort of age are Leeds fans. And the reason they're Leeds fans was Leeds had a great team in the 70s and 80s. Don Revie was the manager, and manager was the word those days rather than head coach. And it was a team, I suppose, the best known members of it, Jack Charlton, obviously, and the midfield duo of John Giles and Billy Bremner were renowned. They were the best team of their era when Liverpool were top dogs. They never quite won as much as many people thought they should have. And a lot of people also never fell in love with them. But for Leeds fans, this is a huge weekend. Their first game, unfortunately, is away to Liverpool at Anfield. And to talk about Leeds and how that great team was formed, I'm joined now by John Giles. John, the nostalgia for the great Leeds team you were very much a part of and a leader of is very, very strong. And this weekend, in particular, going back to Anfield, will bring back many memories for people, because at your peak, Liverpool were the great rivals you had, weren't they?
Yeah, for a long time, Eamon. Anyway, I just want to mention something, Eamon, on the winning the trophies. I have to mention this before we start.
Yeah.
Bill Shankly, Liverpool won 6 major trophies. Leeds United under Don Revie won 6 major trophies.
Okay.
Okay. So we could have and should have probably won more, but we won a fair share at that particular time.
Okay, and you got to the Champions League final as the European Cup in those days against Bayern Munich in 1974, and you were robbed, or refereeing decisions denied you the ultimate prize, even in those days, of winning the European Cup. Now, John, you went there from Manchester United. You played in the Cup final in 1963. I was at the game. You played really, really well for United that day. United were still a big club, and yet, by the end of the summer, you were a Leeds United player. Leeds United were in what's now the Championship, second division in those days. So it seemed they paid, I think, 35,000 for you. And it seemed a massive step down. And now all of us who knew you were a great player. I'm going to become a greater player. It was a remarkable place to go, and decision for you to make, to go from the first division, Premier League as it is now, down into the Championship. Why did you do it?
Well, first of all, I think when I was at Manchester United, I played in the semi-final of the Cup the previous year in 1962 against Spurs, and I was in the main role as a midfield player, and I was only 21, and I had a nightmare, Eamon. I was hopeless. It was against the Spurs, great Spurs team, Jimmy Greaves and Dave Mackay and these players. And I think, yes. I know Matt Busby was a great manager, as we know, lost confidence in me, Eamon. And he didn't actually speak to me sort of ever again after that particular game. He sort of wrote me off. I was only 21, and Bobby Charlton actually was playing the left wing. And in the summer, they bought Dennis Law, and then I was then sort of pushed out onto the right wing. And for that season, I couldn't do wrong for right. I mean, if I went inside a goal, it was a really, really bad time. And we did get to the cup final. I played in all the matches, but Nobby I'd been left out of the team. And Nobby was playing more or less in my position. Nobby got injured just before the cup final.
That's Nobby Styles, yeah.
And I played in the cup final. But if Nobby had been fit, I definitely wouldn't have played in the cup final.
So you made your mind up, did you, John?
Well, I thought there was no future in the name. I mean, if a manager loses confidence in you, it's one of the worst things that can happen to you. You know, no matter what I did, it wasn't right. And I thought, well, this is no good for me. You know, I have to get out of here. And one of the reasons I went to Leeds, well, a couple of reasons was, first of all, if somebody comes in to pay money for you, they obviously think you're good, or else they wouldn't be in for you.
Yep.
And the second thing was with it, that I knew Bobby Collins had gone to Leeds, and Leeds had had a great run from Christmas to the end of the season, almost got promotion, Eamon. But I knew if Bobby Collins was there, I had great admiration for Bobby Collins. Bobby was 10 years older than me, but I remember him playing for Celtic, and he was a great player. I played against him at Everton. So that was one of the main reasons I went there. And when you move, Eamon, it's a gamble. It's always a gamble. Nobody knows how it's going to go. But I was very lucky that it turned out as well as it did.
Yeah, and I mean, at that stage, whilst Busby's reputation and the people's idea that he was a great manager and had been, of course, a great manager, he was tired. The club was in disarray in many ways behind the scenes, and George emerged. Actually, when you left, George was in the team not long afterwards, but he sort of revitalised things. And when you were there and I was there at the same time, it was kind of not much happening. There was a lot of guys like Morasetta's and that in the team. They weren't real United players. There was a lot of talk about Busby among the players. They didn't really respect him the way the Munich team and Bobby Charlton and people had. So you were leaving a troubled ship. And what impression did Don Revie make on you? And how different was training and preparation for games at Leeds compared to what you'd left behind at the glamorous club of the day, Manchester United?
Well, there wasn't that much change in the training. I thought Jack Crompton was a good trainer, when he came in, generally speaking.
At United,
At United, after the Munich air disaster. And there wasn't that much. What I found when I went to Leeds was that, first of all, as you said, with Manchester United had changed from being, the Busby Babes into a team that had brought in a lot of players like David Hare, Paddy Credden, Morasetta's, Noel Cantwell.
Albert Quicksall, they broke the British record. Yeah.
Yes, just after the Munich. So things had definitely changed, although it wasn't the Busby Babes anymore at that particular time. Yes. And there was players coming in with ideas from being outside the club, experienced players that, Matt, in their minds, became old-fashioned. No, girls from Morasetta's, Harry Gregg.
Noel Cantwell was one of them, John.
There was a few, Eamon, that I think believed. Now, I didn't believe in that, but I wasn't an influential member of the team at that particular time. But it wasn't the Busby Babes anymore. And I funny enough, I didn't believe in what they believed in, to be honest. I mean, the things that they were saying, I didn't think were right. So I would have been a defender of Matt Busby's in a certain way. I wasn't very vocal. I didn't have much influence among those players, but I didn't believe. So it was a bit odd that I was out. I didn't mind. I mean, Matt lost confidence in me, and that was it. But it wasn't the club that the club had been before the Munich air disaster, and in my case, I felt it was time to go. So I went to Leeds. What I found was that there were a young bunch of players. Bobby Collins was the leader. Bobby was 10 years older than me. Bobby was a great leader. But they had at the club I felt straight away, a great work ethic. They'd sit on there, they'd Don Revie himself, and you had the young players like Norman Hunter, Paul Reaney, Terry Cooper, Eddie Gray, Peter Lerner were coming on, Paul Madeley, and the work ethic was absolutely brilliant. It was well run. They were learning, they were prepared to learn, they were prepared to do all the stuff that needed to be done. And Don Revie set the tone for that.
Yes. And Billy Bremner was there, of course, and you'd form a fantastic partnership with Billy. And that's what the legend of Leeds, and it is a legend.
But well, it started before that. To be quite honest. Now I went more or less on the right side of nearly as a winger. Bobby Collins and Billy played in the middle of the field. Bobby Collins was brilliant. Bobby Collins was a real leader. He was a great player. He set the example for young players like Norman Hunter and Paul Madeley and Terry Cooper and these lads. Bobby Collins was hugely influential. And Leeds, in my opinion, wouldn't have become what they became if it hadn't been for Bobby Collins.
Right. And he was a hard bastard, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, Bobby could play. Bobby was... But I was very lucky, in the way it worked out. When I was at Manchester United and Matt lost confidence in me, I was only 21. I was a midfield player, and I thought I could do all the things that I wanted to do. And the truth is, I probably couldn't at that age. So when I went to Leeds, I played more or less on the right, where Bobby Collins was the main man. But after, I think it was 2 years, I was 22 when I went to Leeds. After 2 years, maybe 3 years at the most, Bobby Collins got a very bad injury. And then I took over from Bobby Collins. But I was 24, 25 at that time. I was ready for it then to do what needed to be done. Okay. So there was somebody up there looking after me in a football sense, particularly.
Yes. One of the things that Don Revie found when he went to the club, and I mean, one of the biggest legends of Leeds is Norman Hunter. Norman had been let go, had he, John? And Revie brought him back.
Oh yeah, it was a huge break for the club and for Norman. There was a manager called Jack Taylor, who was the manager at that time. Don had been there as a player, and Don knew the club well, Eamon, before he took over. It was a mess.
Yes,
there were some bad lads there, and Jack Taylor didn't sign Norman. When you come to 17, as you know, you either sign, and Norman was released. So when Don took over, he obviously had seen Norman play and brought him back, which was amazing. And it was great for the club. It was great for Norman. And I think when that happens to you, well, Norman had the best attitude I've ever seen from a player. The work ethic, every day he was at it. And I think because he had been released, Eamon, this is my own take on it, that, it's a huge... When you're released as a professional footballer at 17, you're out. You're out in the cold. And I think Norman never, ever forgot that and loved every day. Afterwards, when he came back, he was given a reprieve, if we were going to call it that, and was absolutely brilliant.
Now, in those early days, you got promotion in your first year there, didn't you?
Yes.
And one of the players was Albert Johansson, a left winger, a flying winger. He was one of the first black players to play in England. And on his day, he was a wizard.
I mean, he was brilliant. Yeah. He played on the left wing, and he was absolutely brilliant. I'd never seen him play before. And he wasn't a player even on his day. I mean, he was very consistent in playing.
Right.
And, we got promotion at Swansea, and I remember coming back on the train. I was one of the older lads on the train. We were all in the same carriage, and I was the only player in that particular carriage that played in the first division, because Norman and Paul Madeley and all these had never played in the first division. And Albert said, "Hey man, what's it like to play in the first division?" I said, "Albert, it's great. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it."
Yeah.
And Eamon, he made a face.
Really?
Yeah. And
he wasn't confidence was his problem, wasn't it?
Gone, Eamon.
Really?
And I remember even on the train thinking, that's not good. And when we did play in the first division, he didn't really play at all.
Oh, he was a South African, wasn't he?
He was, Eamon. Yeah. It wasn't easy for him. He was one of the few black players at that particular time.
Was there racism from the terraces in those days, John?
Terrible, Eamon.
Really?
Everywhere we played. He was one of the very few black players at that particular time.
Yes, I know. So I was playing then, yes.
Yeah, he was a target.
Yeah.
And then when we got into the first division, for example, it was too much for him.
Did it have an effect on him, that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah.
Of course, it can't not have an effect on you.
No. And he there were a few young people in Leeds that he got friendly with, and they weren't good for him. Eamon, I think there was a bit too much drink and drugs and that.
His life ended sadly, didn't it? Yes.
Oh yeah, he fell into that. Eamon, he fell into that group. He wasn't secure. I felt sorry for him because he was terrifically gifted.
Yes.
Player, there's no doubt about that. But it was too much for him.
Yeah. Now, John, you went into the first division, and you did really well from the get-go, didn't you?
Yeah, well, amazingly well, Eamon. Like we won the second, what was then the second division, and it was just great work ethic. Not great players, young players. Some older players that we had at the time. Jim Storey was in the team. With Alan Peacock, we bought in Lawson, came into the team, who were Willie Bell, but again, a good attitude. And they had the young players like Paul Reaney was a young player, Terry Cooper, Billy Bremner, Norman Hunter, Paul Madeley coming into the team. So there was a good mixture,
yes.
good work ethic, and remarkably well to do what we did. I mean, we finished runners up with a record number of points, and record number of points that didn't win the league, Eamon.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable. We're beaten 3 or 4 times in the league, and then got to the cup final. We beat Manchester United in the semi-final after a replay, and then played Liverpool in the final in '65. So it was a remarkable first season, and it actually led to the Leeds being runners-up all the time. Like to finish runners-up in the cup and the league for a promoted team was remarkable.
Yes.
But that type of thing went against us. Say, Leeds runners-up again,
Yeah.
But that's the way it was. But it was a remarkable season, Eamon. And it has a bit of a coincidence to it, even now coming up to the I know you're going to talk about the Liverpool match on Saturday, because we played Villa in the first match. And the first match we played at Leeds was against Liverpool, Eamon.
Right. So
who just won the league.
History kind of repeating itself. When did the kind of Peter Lorimer, Eddie Gray, Paul Madeley, those guys really, the core team that was to be renowned for a decade, when did that sort of emerge? Was it in your second season in the first division?
No, I think it was a bit longer than that, Eamon. Like the first year when we played Liverpool, as you know, beat us in the cup, but with a terrific team. And at that stage, we had Jim Storey in Lawson, Alan Peacock. Alan Peacock got injured, and then it changed. But we didn't have as good a second season as the first season, Eamon. So it went to Bobby Collins got injured. And I took over from Bobby, and then we signed Mick O'Grady from Huddersfield, who was a good player.
Right.
And then that led from, that was in 65, we played Liverpool in the Cup. Well, we didn't win a trophy until 68. And by that time, we signed Mick Jones. 69, we signed Alan Clark. So there was Jimmy Greenough was a lad played for us up front. So we had a few players in those particular 2 or 3 years, Eamon, where the younger players were getting a bit older. I was only 24, 25 when I took over from Bobby Collins. So we'd had 2 or 3 years experience, and then in 68 we won the League Cup and we won the Fairs Cup, and that was the start of it from winning trophies at that particular time. So the younger lads got older and got better. And what happened then, the great Liverpool team that beat us in the cup, with Roger Hunt and Chris Law and Tommy Smith and all these guys, they were going past their best at that particular stage,
Right.
And Man U were as well.
And why did everyone hate you?
Well, Leeds got a reputation.
No, you got a reputation for being dirty and also for playing not great football.
Well, that's not true, Eamon. Actually, for the first year we were in the first division.
Well, no, you tell me what's true, because I'm only saying what I remember. Yeah. You were actually there.
I was there. Yeah. What happened was that when a team becomes successful, they're not very, very well liked by the opposition, Eamon. And Leeds were a tough team. There's no doubt about it. But so were all the other teams, Eamon. You know, we played against Jimmy Gabriel, Johnny Morrissey, all these terrific players. They all had people. That was the time that was in it. And I think what started it with Leeds was that there was a report that Leeds were the dirtiest team on the record for getting players sent off and booked. But they took the youth team and the juniors into it. You know, so that was the headline. Right. Leeds top of the dirty list.
Yeah, and the other top team in those days, or certainly lots of good players in it, Peter Osgood, was Chelsea, and they had Ron Harris, Clogger Harris. They had all kinds of tough guys
Eddie
as well.
McCready,
so
Chopper Harris, it was Peter Osgood.
Yes,
I could name you. Go to Burnley and you had O'Neill and Lockhead, and every team had them. I mean, Everton, Jimmy Gabriel, Johnny Morrissey, Sandy Brown, right? Every team had them, so you had to be able to do that.
And you were one of Leeds' men, but you were the kind of the scientist of that rough stuff, weren't you? You only got caught once, I think. You were sent off once at Luton.
That was at West Brom. But what happened for me, I mean, I got a terrible injury against Birmingham when I was at Manchester United.
Yes.
I was in ankle ligament. Then when I went to Leeds, in our first season in the first division, we played against Chelsea, and I was playing more or less on the right wing against Eddie McCready. Right, Eddie McCready was a terrific player, and I played in the match. And I got the ball. I came inside Eddie McCready. I released it to Norman Hunt, who had come from the back, and I saw Norman getting a shot in before Eddie McCready did me. And he did me in a big way, right? Knee ligaments.
That's a long time. Yeah, it's a fast. Yeah.
Right? Now, I was 23 at that time, and I decided this is not going to happen again. I'm not going to be an easy target, which I was. I'd had 2 bad injuries, and I decided that's it. I could always look after myself.
Yeah.
But now I became a real. I won't take any nonsense from anybody.
No, you became a legend for looking after yourself.
I had a reputation for that. Definitely had a reputation for that. But I wanted to have a reputation for that. I didn't want the opposition coming out and say, "You get stuck into this guy, and that's it. He'll be off, or he'll pack it in, or whatever it was going to be." So that was the culture of the day. I mean,
I know it was.
But you had to commit grievous bodily harm to get a yellow card in those days. If I didn't do what I did, I wouldn't have lasted.
Every team had at least one. Who was the guy who played for Arsenal in midfield?
Peter Storey.
Yeah, Peter Storey. But I went to see you play Arsenal one night in London. But the funny thing was, there was a kind of mutual respect. So he didn't start it, and you didn't start it, and nothing happened that night. Was that the way it worked out in the end? You began to have a truce.
If I hadn't had the reputation from that, I mean, it wouldn't have worked out. He'd have been kicking lumps out of me.
Yeah.
To put me out of the game. But when I was in a position where it was very nice, I had to scare him.
Yeah.
I had to scare him and all these other guys to be allowed to play. Because you remember George Easton playing? You remember George Easton playing?
I do, yeah.
George was more or less kicked out of it, Eamon.
Yes, he was. Great player.
But George was, in my opinion, was kicked out of it. Anybody be kicked out of it. That was the culture.
Let me ask you about your partnership with Billy Bremner. You're always talked about as Giles Bremner and remembered, in a great way. Billy was a very different player. How great was he, John, and how much did he contribute? Because the two of you really were the leaders of the team at your best. Tell me about Billy as a person and as a footballer.
Billy, in my opinion, was a great player, Eamon.
Yeah.
Billy had to be the star of the show, Eamon.
Yep.
He was a show off.
Yeah.
But he produced.
Yes.
He produced. I got on well with him on the pitch in term. But Billy had to be, like, Don loved Billy. Don made him captain. But Billy was the star man. Billy had to have that.
Yes.
I didn't. Norman didn't. Peter Lorimer didn't.
Yes.
But he produced, Eamon.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at the goals that he scored were amazing. I mean, every cup final that we got into, he scored a winning goal. The cup final, he scored a goal. And the European Cup, it was just unbelievable. And the spectacular goals, you know. Like, between the two of us, I mean, I scored a lot of penalties, but both of us scored 115 goals for Leeds, for midfield. But Billy's were more spectacular than mine, and more important matches.
Yes.
He was incredible in that way. He had unbelievable confidence in himself.
Yeah.
Eamon.
Yeah.
Unbelievable confidence. Billy was going to be the star of the show in every match. And lots of the matches he was.
Yeah.
That's the way he was. And Don loved him. You know?
And the kind of thing of Giles Bremner thing, I mean, it was very potent. You were different types of people and different types of players. But between the two of you, you ticked every box midfield players need to tick, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Billy could win the ball better than me. I mean, he was a great winner of the ball.
Yeah.
You know? And we'd be close enough on the pitch to combine, you know, little 1-2s, like things that I don't mention to go on about today, but you don't see it so much today. You know, midfield players now are getting on the ball and they pass inside. But we were always near each other, a little 1-2. Billy could be players, if I could be players. So we could start things from the middle of the field. And Billy could get stuck in, you know?
Yes.
Like the two of us could get stuck in. So we had reputations that we weren't going to take any nonsense from anybody.
Right.
But Billy could play. I mean, he was unbelievably skillful and unbelievable confidence, Eamon.
Yes.
Unbelievable confidence. But he produced, you know? He produced, which was the main thing.
One of the things Don Revie did, and I'm not sure if this is true or just folklore, was you played in white. Real Madrid had played in white.
Yes.
Was that Don's idea?
Yeah.
To kind of...
Don, I think when Don came into management, Eamon, he decided, right, I'm going to change things here, and this is what we're going to aim to be.
Yes.
You know? And Real Madrid at that time, before that even, were the team. If you want to copy somebody, they were the team, and that was Don's idea, that we're going to be the Real Madrid, or as near to Real Madrid as we possibly can. And that was a long time, and that's when he just took over. So he had that ambition and the dream to do it.
The reputation that followed you around as a team, clearly you resented that.
Yes. I thought it was unfair, Eamon. I thought some of you go back and see some of the stuff football that we played.
Yes.
Especially when we became established.
Yes.
You know, like in the early days, when we were in the second division, that we were a bit rough and ready, you know, that we didn't have the players. But when we got to like 68, 69, when you had Norman Hunter and Jack Charlton and Terry Cooper and Paul Madeley and Paul Reaney, Alan Clark, Mick Jones, Eddie Gray, Peter Lorimer.
Yes.
These were all great players.
Yes.
And some of the stuff we played, I mean, they used to say, I mean, you see some of them, like we played Southampton one time, it showed a lot, we beat them 7-0. Actually, the 2 weeks before that, we beat Manchester United 5-0 and played just exhibition stuff.
Yes.
It was just, you know, when we got to a certain stage, around 68, 69, you know, we became better players. The guy was only 28 at that time, and Norman was only 25, 26. We'd been playing for years, but we came together well. We signed Mick Jones, we signed Alan Clark, Eddie Gray came into the team. I mean, who could be better than Eddie Gray?
No,
and Peter Lorimer.
Yeah.
And Billy Bremner. You know, like Alan Clark. These were all great players, I mean. Yeah. And just to label them from the early days, which we were a bit rough and ready, there's no doubt, but we did become a great team, and they still stuck to the dirty Leeds.
Yeah,
you know. And one of the things they did with Norman Hunter bite your legs. I mean, that was from the Leeds supporters at a cup final.
Yeah,
with affection for Norman.
Yes,
and the press took it, and Norman either bite your leg, dirty Norman Hunter. You know?
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't no angel, Norman Hunter, but he could play as well.
Of course he could, yeah.
Great players.
Let me ask you about Don Revie, John, because he became a controversial figure, and there were allegations of match attempts to bribe and all of that stuff. A lot of it tabloidy and not perhaps based on fact. One of the things, though, would be that even when you had, and you've listed all the great players, that you weren't as expansive as a side as you could have been, that there was still always, we ain't going to lose first, and we're not going to, and he never quite let you off the leash, in the way that a Busby team would have, or maybe a Shankly team. That sort of criticism that he was overly cautious. Is there something in that?
Yeah, there would be something in it, Eamon. I think, now my own theory on it, I think what he did at Leeds was a great job, obviously.
Oh, obviously,
and from the start, with the players that he had, the work ethic and all the various things we did, was brilliant. I think when we got to 68, 69, see, Don was close to the lads as a manager, and I think time goes by so quickly in football, Eamon, that I don't think he quite realised that this team, these players, have become great players.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, what happened actually when we were beating Manchester United 5-0 and Southampton 7-1, this was around 1970.
Yes.
And what had happened then, we won the league in 69, and we could have been more expansive, but we were very good. We only lost 2 matches all season and all that.
Yeah.
But just scored the lowest number of goals, but lost the least games. So we were a bit on the defensive side, there's no doubt about that. But when we got to 69, we won the league. And at the start of 69-70 season, we didn't play particularly well. So, actually in 71, I should say. And we didn't play particularly well after Christmas. And Don said, right, at Christmas time, right, forget about the league. We're going to go for the cup at that particular time, right?
Yeah.
So, right, we just go out and play.
Yes.
So, I mean, we played the best football you've ever seen.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We won the league. And we needed to win at Southampton, a point at Wolverhampton to win the double.
Right.
That's when he let us off the hook.
Yes.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like before that, when we won it in 68, 69 and that, he wasn't saying don't do this and don't do that.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there was still the cautious.
Yes.
There still was a cautious element in it. And I could recognise it probably more than the other players because I played under Busby.
Yes.
And Busby's attitude was if you were winning 1-0 and you went for the second goal and you lost it and drew, he'd say, that's what I want you to do. Next week, if we get that, you would do it again.
Yes.
Don wouldn't.
Yes. Yeah.
Don would say to me, for example, what the hell were you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If you were going for the second goal. But we didn't lose very often doing that.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
Like what you needed was a combination. I think, say Matt, for example, couldn't have done what Don did with Leeds.
Yes.
He couldn't have done that with the players that he had. Matt always had great players at his disposal. Yes. So I think if Matt took us over around 1968, 69, with the players that we had at that particular time, and I don't want to be cruel to Don here, we might have won more.
Right, yeah. I just want to ask you now, on Saturday, John, tomorrow that is, you go to Liverpool and it's a big moment for all Leeds fans. And as I said at the start of our conversation, that it's a big day for all Leeds fans. And there are many in Ireland. Liverpool were your great rivals. I want to end our conversation by asking you a question. And I think it's a nice question. Looking at the Liverpool side today, and I know you admire them very much, as I do, as we all do, I think. Yeah. If the team that you were talking about in 1970-71, your great Leeds team, played the Liverpool team of today, how do you think you'd get on? Now, you can take your time to think about this. You probably have thought about it in another way.
I don't need more than time to think about it, and I'll tell you straight away.
Yeah, who'd have won?
I think we do very well.
Yeah, really?
I think we do very well.
Yeah.
Because we had players all over the pitch. I mean,
yes.
You know,
and they have players all over the pitch.
Oh yeah, well, that's what I say. We do very well. I'm not saying in any way. I don't say we could beat them. And that's Liverpool are becoming a great team.
Yes.
They're becoming a great team, and we don't know. They'd probably improve I would expect them to improve as years went on.
Yeah.
But at that time, around like 71, 72, 73, we were a great team.
Yes. Yeah.
I would have fancied us against anybody. Well organised, good attitude. Alan Clark, Mick Jones, Eddie Gray, Peter Lorimer, Billy Bremner, and myself in midfield.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and then Big Jack, Norman. We were just a great team.
Yeah.
And it would have been a fantastic match. Let's put it that way. I think Liverpool. Well, we'd been together for 7 or 8 years at that time.
Yes.
Like Liverpool have only been together for the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And they've laid a foundation, in my opinion, that they could go on to be one of the dynasty, as they've done in Liverpool in previous years. Definitely, that's the. Now nobody knows what's going to happen, Eamon. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but that's the way it looks to me. That Liverpool have definitely built the foundations to do what needs to be done and become one of the really great teams. We had built a foundation by the time we were going to Liverpool in 78, in 69 and that, Eamon.
Yeah.
We played against one of the great Liverpool teams who we'd seen grown older, and then they built again when we'd finished at that particular time. So it does take time, but I think Liverpool definitely have laid a foundation. We had laid the foundations at that time when we were playing at Liverpool, when we dominated Liverpool for a few years, from 68 to 73. But then they came back. Well, a big thing in that, as you know, and Don Reevy and Bill Shankly retired at the same time.
Yeah, at the same time. Yeah, amazing. Well, John, it's been great talking to you, and I know all our football supporters and listeners to the stand will enjoy your memories of those great players and those great days. Leeds fans in particular, I'm sure, will have had a treat listening to you, and we're very, very grateful to you, John. I'll be ringing you during the match tomorrow because you're going to get a good spanking, if what I hear.
Well, can I just go back? Just go back to years, to the good times at Leeds? When we did get promotion at Leeds, Liverpool had won the league the previous year.
Yes.
In 63, 64, when we got promotion. And our first match at home was at Liverpool, where we won 4-2.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
The next week was away to Liverpool, and they won 2-1.
Okay, so there's history.
So it was touch and go all those years when Leeds did get the promotion. There was some great games. I love playing at Anfield. They have great players, they have great teams. Actually, Revy and Shankly were very pally with each other, Eamon.
Yeah.
Shankly used to ring Revy every Sunday morning and talk about football.
Yeah. It's sad what happened.
Great rivalry, but actually they were good pals.
Okay, John, that was great, and we're really grateful to John Giles, one of the greatest players to ever play the game, in one of the best sides to ever emerge in England. We're grateful to John, of course, and